Okay, this is a continuation of our bottle one design. We now have all our in-mold details and all our surfaces. So I'm going to bring that forward from our oval concave layer into this third layer, which I'm calling solid and volume check. So now that we have all these down, I took the radiuses off. I'm going to complete them all together at the end and make some final decisions about how those are going to look. So let's take these surfaces here, and let's create our whole bottle. So if I mirror those over, copy, I have the entire front of the bottle. And I'm going to mirror that over to the back, one copy. So now I have all the parts that will make this bottle, except for the top and the bottom. So what I'm going to do is take all of those, I'm going to stitch them together. So now I have one stitched object. It's not a solid yet. I still have to manage the top and the bottom. Like I mentioned before, you can go to the inspector and it tells us surface. So we have one nice clean surface. If it wasn't clean, it would say surfaces, multiple surfaces. So I'm just going to do a volume check now. It's very close to the actual size that it would be if I were to check this. I'm not really trying to reach any particular volume. So this can be done at any time. I just want to show you how to make that check. So what I'm going to do is I am going to, so we're going to derive an offset. This is under the derive tool section. It says offset surface. So what this will do is I can make this offset this surface out or in a very specific distance. So this bottle ultimately will be like a polyethylene PET bottle, and it'll probably have a wall thickness, maybe 35 thousandths. I know I'm talking in inches, but it's a very thin amount. You know, if you ever cut a polyethylene bottle in half, you can see the wall is pretty thin. So what I'm trying to do here is I'm going to build a solid object that represents the liquid that will be inside and not the bottle. So if I take this and I offset it, I'm going to offset it by 40 thousandths. That would be a comfortable amount to do that. If you watch closely, I have it on negative 40 thousandths offset. I'm just going to click in space. What it's going to do, it's going to shrink it slightly. See how it went in? Slightly, just that wall thickness. And now this is still a surface, so I need to make this a solid so I can check it with my volume tool. So one quick way to do that is to just draw a line straight here. I'm also going to incorporate a fill level. This represents the very, very top of my bottle. I'm going to bring that down, and I'm just going to guess a little bit about where that fill level might be. So I'm just going to draw a line here, and I'm going to come up in the bottom a little bit because we might have some contouring in the bottom of the bottle. So this is just a quick way to get a volume check. So I can trim split those. Trim split with the line. Now this time I'm going to put stitch on. So since this is a surface and I trim it with that line, it will cut the top of the bottle off and it'll fill in that top area, and so will the bottom. And if I fill in both of those areas, that's going to make this a solid object. So let's do that. Hang up, select my object, trim split, select object, trim split. And now if I look at these from the top of them, it is completely closed and sealed. And if I select that and go back to our inspector, it says solid now and not surfaces. So that's what we need to check the volume. So to check the volume, you go down to where the ruler is normally, and we have mass properties. So all you have to do is click on mass properties, and these cross axes will come up. So over here, these are things that we can determine from this object. So the most important one, and the one we'll use the most, is the volume. It's not necessarily weight, but it's the volume. And since we all use liters, I have that set on liters. We can do all these other things. If we do liters, we have 240 milliliters or 0.240 liters. So that's fine because I'm not really trying to get to any particular volume. I just want to show you how to check that. So if you are doing a bottle and you know the volume and you're trying to sculpt something unique, you can start the sculpture shape, maybe not to its completion, but get it very close. And you can do a volume check intermittently. Now, if I needed this to be larger or smaller, I would have to make some compensations. What would I do? Make it taller, make it a little thicker, maybe. Maybe I love this profile, but I need to increase the volume. I would make the bottle thicker, deeper. And I might have to go back and redo these details. Or maybe I can independently scale it with these details, with the details. I have to see if it's going to hold up or the geometry falls apart. So let's just undo. So that's just a way of doing a volume check. Okay, I undid offset. So now I'm back to my object. So what I can do with this is if I'm going to close this off and make a solid. So I'm going to select these segments. And I'm going to go to move one copy. You see how that turned into a surface. That's because I have a nice, clean, flat surface on the top and the bottom. So I have that over there. So now I'm going to go back and select it as an object, not lines anymore, because now I've moved it and now it's an object. So I'm going to select that and put it back. So it's like a cover. I'm going to put that right back there. And I'm going to do the same thing on the bottom. So if I go into hidden line, I can just, I have to go segment. I can just lasso these. And there they are. Move one copy. And just to double check if that's nice and gray, then that's perfect. I'm going to go back to object. Select this, not faces, not lines. And I'm going to move that, not a copy. I just want to put this back into position where it came from, but it's now I've created a surface. So I have our main surface, which is an object. I have the top, and I have the bottom. So if I just, oops, select all of this, and I do stitch, we should have a solid object. So let's just check, inspector, solid. So that's our bottle. So the final part here would be these radiuses. Now the ones I did before were pretty good, so now I'm going to select them. I could modify these here, but I think they're pretty good. So I'm going to use this continuous line here. And if I select that, it goes all the way around. I'm going to hold shift. So that's that whole edge over there. I believe I used 1/8 of an inch. 0.2. And that radius is it. And I believe I did this front one. Shift, back one, radius, I think it was 0.25. And there it is. So while I'm at it, since I have a solid, I'm going to, the next phase on this will be doing some renderings and putting some art on here. So let's select the bottom. I did a continuous selection. I believe 1/8 inch worked pretty well down here. That looks nice. And then this top edge where our closure is going to go, I'm going to radius that a little bit. Let's see what 1/8 inch looks like. Yeah, that looks pretty good. I mean, usually plastic blow molded bottles. I'm going to talk more about blow molding. Usually quite generous radiuses are nice to have. So that'll create a nice little highlight just under our closure when we build that. Okay, so that's our object. Check the volume. Let's assume that that's correct and we like it. And now this is ready to take into the next level for rendering and color and putting art on it. All right, that's it for this tutorial.